Hello students, in this tutorial we're going to talk about HDR toning, and basically that's kind of placing some HDR applications on top of a photo that is not actually shot in HDR. And remember, shooting in HDR means we shoot it at multiple different exposures and combine those exposures together. I'm going to break one rule that I never break, which is copying the background layer, because I've found that in this particular instance it will not even save your background layer, it will flatten your image. So there's no sense in doing that. So what you might want to do beforehand with the image that you're going to is resave it as a different name, so that way you still have your original photograph that you're going to work with. And we're going to go to Image, Adjustments, and a good way down to HDR Toning. And you're going to notice in this dialog box it's going to look very similar to the HDR Pro box that we had. The presets being the default and all of these kind of monochromatic or artistic or surrealistic options here, kind of applications you can put on this: a local adaptation, exposure and gamma, highlight compression, and equalize histogram. So we are first going to go to exposure and gamma, and we are going to work on you notice that even just the slightest pull in here gives a very drastic difference. It's not like many of the other sliders. So I'm kind of using my up and down arrow key to kind of add a little bit of brightness here. And remember, gamma, we either kind of sharpen the image or soften it a little bit. So I'm bringing it kind of the opposite direction here to kind of soften the image rather than make it look sharper, make it look a little bit more soft. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK on that. And we're going to come back in and do the local adaptation. So it'll take just a moment here to render. So I'm going to do Image, Adjustments, and again, this is the only time I break that rule, because if I had added that background layer it would have asked me to compress it once I hit OK. Now notice it kind of darkened everything up there. If I turn the preview off, okay, already just by selecting this, very much like when you select shadow and highlight, it kind of automatically puts some basic adjustments on there. So I feel like I want to kind of bring some of that brightness back in. So I'm going to kind of pull again, not too much up. And I kind of like the background blown out just a little bit. I think that's kind of a neat touch to the image. So again, I go down to soften my detail here a little bit. Now this will strengthen some of my shadows, or strengthen or weaken some of my highlights as well. So I'm going to actually bring those up because I like kind of this almost angelic, soft look to this particular image. And I can mess with the vibrance, either obviously making it more monochromatic, or I can make it a little bit more saturated as I choose. And again, saturation works similar ways. Now this particular part of the menu is not actually visible to you until you kind of open it up. And again, if you learn from your curves and levels assignment earlier, you can kind of place points and decide how you want to pull from them. Again, kind of making that S-curve if you choose to add some of those in. Now I think some of this is kind of really, brightening her lips a little too much and making it look just a little too cartoony. So I'm actually going to click on these and delete them, or I can go back to this little circle here and hit Reset Curve, which would revert it. And I can just bring that back up if I choose. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK on that image right there. Now the only downfall to this is, in order for me to show you the before and after, I would have to go and reopen the old image. So there is no real, background turning the eyeball off and on to see that. So a way to do that would be to save the original image as a separate name from the image that you are showing. So if you look here, kind of in the small, if I zoom in a little bit here, okay, we have the image looking fairly good. Again, it's properly exposed for the most part. There's a little bit of brightness in the background there. It's a decent picture. For me to kind of make it a little bit more kind of super realistic, okay, bringing out that color in that image, I've used the HDR toning to give it just kind of like that little souped up Photoshop look to it. So I wish you luck as you work with this image as well as your own images to put on HDR toning. Good luck!